Hello, welcome to the Pretty Stitch, and today we're going to talk Tunisian crochet. So right here I have a regular crochet hook, and some of you are probably familiar with a Tunisian crochet hook, which is longer and it's not going to show up in this frame. But here is an example of a long Tunisian hook. So it has a regular hook on the end here, and then if I just slide her down, you can see that it's much longer compared to this guy here. So if we look at it like that, similar hook on the end, and you go all the way down, see how much longer it is. There's also another type of Tunisian hook. So here we have another type of Tunisian hook. So it looks like a regular crochet hook here, and then it has this cord attached to the end of it, and it's pretty flexible, and you can use this for blankets, shawls, all different things. And I prefer when I need to use a Tunisian hook, I prefer this kind compared to these long straight ones, because for some reason these guys, they really hurt my hands, and I don't know if it's because it doesn't have the little dip here. See how this one has that little dip? And just like a regular crochet hook, like these crochet hooks, these are my boys. I love these. These are my absolute favorite, classic, straight. And I guess, maybe it's the way that it has this here. It's more comfortable in my hand. For this guy, it's completely straight, and for some reason, it just tends to kill my hands. And this one's pretty old. It's slightly bent. It's been through a lot, even though I haven't used it very much. I think it's from moving. But anyway, these guys are my preferred. Now, if you're not sure if you like Tunisian, you can. Today we're going to learn a basic stitch to get started, and you only need a straight regular crochet hook. You don't have to go out and invest in a bunch of Tunisian hooks. Now there is also, yeah, that sounds right. There is also another type of hook for Tunisian. It's a double-ended hook. So what that means is you would have a hook here on your end, and then at the bottom you would have a hook as well, and that would be used for working Tunisian in the round. And I don't have those type of hooks. I haven't worked Tunisian in the round. I'd like to learn, but I'm just not ready to invest in a double-ended hook. I'm sure I could, someday I'll get one. But today's not that day. So, but you can still do plenty of awesome Tunisian projects without having a double-ended hook. So we are going to do that. And again, you only need a regular straight hook if you want to just learn the basic stitch. Okay, so we are going to get started. And if you know how to crochet, then you can do Tunisian crochet. Even if you only know how to knit, I'm sure you can pick this up easily as well. So what you will need to do is you will make your slip knot like you normally would, and we are going to work off of a chain. So we are going to chain 10. So you just chain like you normally do. So we've worked our 10 chains, and when you do Tunisian crochet, there's actually 2 steps involved. So first, initially, you're going to work across the chain, and all of your stitches are going to be attached to your hook. That's why for some projects, let's say you're making a blanket, you would need a longer hook to fit all your stitches on there. Just like if you think of knitting needles, how if you've seen people knit, there's a whole bunch of stitches on the hook. Well, the same thing applies with Tunisian crochet. Okay, so we have crocheted, or we have stitched 10 chains, and normally when you crochet, let's say you're working a single crochet, you would work in the second chain from your hook, and then you would continue along, and you would only have 9 stitches. But with Tunisian, the loop on your hook already, so this guy right here counts as your first stitch. So if you've chained 10, which we have, you're going to have 10 loops on your hook. So what you're going to do is it's easier to work in the back bump of the chain. Tunisian tends to curl with a lot of stitches, and when you work like this in the chain, it curls 50 times worse. So I highly recommend always working in the back bump of the chain when you're working Tunisian crochet. So we are going to work in the second chain from our hook, working in the back bump. So you're just going to put your hook right in that back bump, yarn over, pull through, and we have 2 loops on our hook. Now if you were going to work a single crochet, you'd yarn over again and work those stitches off, but with Tunisian we're leaving them on. So we're going to go to the next one. So insert in the back bump, yarn over, pull through, so now you have 3. And you do that again, yarn over, or put your hook in your back bump, yarn over, pull through, and you're just going to keep going all the way down your chain, leaving those stitches on your hook. Now, not all Tunisian projects require a long hook, and usually the designer will tell you there are some projects that you only need a regular short crochet hook. And let's say, like, even if I was working maybe 30 stitches, I wouldn't bust out the long crochet, the long Tunisian hook. What you can do, and what I do a lot, if it is like 30 stitches or even 40, you know, they get bunched up, get a rubber band and just wrap it around the end, and that's going to stop your stitches from falling off. Just like with this guy here, you know, it has a stopper on the end, so your rubber band acts like your stopper. But we only have 10, so we're good. We don't need to worry about that. Alright, so we have 10 loops on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we've completed the first step with Tunisian crochet. So now we have to do the second step, and the second step is usually referred to as the return pass. So what you normally do, unless the pattern states otherwise, is this first stitch here, you will yarn over and you'll just pull through 1. And that's, most patterns are like that unless it states otherwise. So read your patterns. So the next stitches and the rest of these guys, to work these off, you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull through 2. So usually the first stitch is 1, the rest are 2. So I'm just yarning over, pulling through 2 stitches. Yarning over, pulling through 2. And there's my last 2, yarn over, pull through the last 2. So I have completed 1 row of Tunisian crochet. In most patterns, this will be your setup row. You're going to do most patterns like this, just what we did. You're going to work in the chain and you're going to yarn over, pull through the 1, yarn or pull through 2, and when you start off it's going to look like this. So let's take a look at our Tunisian stitches that we just made. These are basic ones. Let me get a smaller hook, my pointier. This is a good pointy hook to show things. So what you're going to have here, and what you usually work in, are these bars. So this would be considered a bar. That's a bar. There's another one right there. So these are usually the stitches that you're going to work in when you're working Tunisian. Now there's different ways of working in the bars, but for today I'm going to show you the Tunisian simple stitch. And I'll put the abbreviation up there. So Tunisian simple stitch. And it is pretty simple, I think. So this, some patterns will say skip the first bar, and what they mean by that, I find that very confusing. I had a hard time with that. So don't overthink it. They'll think that this is the first bar. You don't work in this one. I don't even count it. To me, this is the first bar right here. So most patterns you know, you're going to work in this guy, unless it says skip this one, work in that one. But we're working just straight up Tunisian simple stitch. Don't even worry about that. So this would be your first bar. Don't even think about this guy here. So I'm going to get my hook back in my loop. And we are going to do the Tunisian simple stitch. Okay, so this starts as our first stitch. So you want to make sure when you're starting that it's not loosey-goosey like that. I mean, you don't want it so tight that, you know, you can, you know, barely maneuver your hook, but you want your loops snugly on your hook, and we're going to work right in that first bar. So what you do is you just insert your hook right in the first bar, yarn over, pull through like that. Now we're going to do the same thing for the second one. So this is our first step for row 2. So again, Tunisian is always 2 steps. So it's like you're going up and back, up and back. Just like if you're swimming laps, I guess. Isn't it like when you're swimming laps, you have to go back and forth and that counts as one lap? Maybe not, I don't know. But I was not a swimmer. For some reason I thought that's what one lap counted. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but we're gonna, this is what it is in Tunisian crochet. So up and back is one, would be considered one row. Okay, so we have worked in all of our bars. So now we have to work in the last bar. Now I will show you how to work Tunisian simple stitch in the last bar. And you just work right in that loop, yarn over. So now we have worked all of our stitches in Tunisian simple stitch. Now we need to work these off. So you do the same thing, yarn over, and you want to watch your tension because this stitch can look a little ugly on the end when you're working Tunisian simple stitch. So you just want to, you know, make sure your tension is not too tight, not too loose. I think generally it gets too loose. So we are going to pull through that first guy, yarn over, pull through 2, 2, so not too hard. If you can crochet, you can do this. And some people, I love Tunisian, some people hate it, you know, try it out and see for yourself. Okay, so now we have worked 2 rows. And see, when your setup row already you've got 1 row completed. And the nice thing with Tunisian, it is pretty easy to count. It has a nice clean edge. It looks like a chain, so you can see you have 1 row here, 1 row there. So you have 2 rows. So we will work 2 more rows for our little Tunisian simple stitch swatch. Okay, so now we're going to work round 3, or round row. We're working in rows. So we're working row 3. So you're going to insert your hook right in that first bar, yarn over, pull through, leave that loop on your hook. So this stitch is basically the jumping off stitch for all Tunisian. So just like with crocheting, you want to learn like basic key stitches. Same thing with Tunisian. This is a basic key stitch. You know, you need to know, you know, the bar there, what they're talking about, what that means. So once you got this stitch down, you can do all kinds of things. Okay, so we're going to work in that last one, Tunisian simple. So we have 10 loops. And Tunisian is pretty easy too, I think, with counting. You know, if you know the amount of, you know, with your chain, what you started with. You know, if you're not sure if you missed a stitch, you know, just count your loops and then you'll know if you have them all or not. Now there is increasing and decreasing with Tunisian, so you know that can change, but this is just straight up, we're working even, so you don't have to worry about that. Alright, so we're going to work these guys off, so yarn over, pull through the 1, and we're working yarn over, pulling through 2 loops for the rest of the row. For row 3, because there's two parts. Part A, you could do part A, part B. Alright, so now we have 3 rows. So we'll do one more. So right in that first bar. And there's our last one. Now I suggest when you're doing Tunisian, especially if you're learning, don't use multicolored yarn. You know, the stitches can get lost in that, so I suggest a solid color yarn. You know, certainly once you get familiar with it and you want to use multicolored yarn, you know, absolutely feel free to do that. But when you're just starting out, make life easier for yourself and use solid colored yarn. And don't use yarn that's real thin. This is typical basic worsted weight #4 yarn. Acrylic, you know, the workhorse, great for learning things. So we have completed 4 rows, and again, you can turn it right on its side there, and you can see it. It looks like regular crochet stitches, the tops of the stitches. Okay, so we have worked 4 rows of our Tunisian simple stitch. So now what? Now you have to work these guys off. You could, you know, just snip your yarn and call it a day, but we really want this end here to match this end here as best as we can. So what you need to do is don't overthink it. If you can work a slip stitch, and I'm not talking like rows and rows of slip stitch like joining, you know, when you're working in the round and regular crochet, you can work off your loops in Tunisian crochet. Very, very simple. So you have your loop on your hook, you're going to work in the first bar, and what you're going to want to do is when you're working off your loops in Tunisian crochet, you want to work them off in the stitch that you did previously. You want to work in the pattern, unless the pattern states otherwise. So we worked all of these stitches in Tunisian simple stitch. So I want to work off my stitches in Tunisian simple stitch, but using a slip stitch. I know it sounds confusing, but once you see it in action, you'll totally get it. So we're going to work in our first bar in Tunisian simple stitch, just like normal. Yarn over, pull through. So you have your 2 loops on your hook. So we're going to just finish up that stitch, working these guys off by just slipping it like that. So that's why, I mean, think of it as a slip stitch. Don't overthink it, because it's really not difficult, especially if you're a seasoned crocheter. You're going to pick this up pretty quickly. So you're going to work in the next bar and do the same thing. I mean, you can just pop it like that. Now you don't want to get them too tightly. Just with working regular slip stitch, it can, you know, get tight very quickly. You don't watch yourself, so just watch your tension. Just stay relaxed and just work these guys off. So pop your hook in. We're working Tunisian simple, yarn over, pull through, and you just keep doing that all the way across. And then, as you can see, it's starting to resemble the other side. So we've got 2 more stitches to go. So we just work the last stitch, Tunisian simple, and now we have worked off our stitches in Tunisian simple stitch. So you can see the top there looks similar to what we started with here. So looks definitely more finished and more complete. And see, this is what I mean by curling. Tunisian, it creates a really nice fabric. I like this. Some people don't like the Tunisian simple stitch. I actually like it. I think it's pretty awesome. You can do like cool color work with this stuff. I love color work, but it can curl. So that part can be very annoying. So I wouldn't really recommend a project that's straight up Tunisian simple. Like, let's say you wanted to make a blanket in all Tunisian simple, it's going to be a bear to try to prevent that from curling. But there are other stitches you can do to kind of combat that. Just like with knitting, there's some knitting stitches that, you know, they love to curl as well, so you have to kind of find other stitches to make it behave. But this is Tunisian simple stitch,